For over 100 years, British cyclists were basically the laughingstock of the sports world. I mean, they had won almost nothing.
Yeah, they were notoriously bad.
Right, so bad that top bicycle manufacturers actually refused to sell them gear. They were literally afraid it would ruin their brand image.
Wow, that is rough.
It is. But then this new coach comes in and he completely ignores their massive fitness goals. Instead, he made them focus on like the exact firmness of their pillows.
Pillows, really?
Yeah, pillows. He even brought in a surgeon to teach them how to wash their hands properly.
Nah.
And just 5 years later, they completely conquered the globe. I mean, dominated the Tour de France, the Olympics, everything.
That is just an incredible turnaround.
It really is. And today we're taking a deep dive into exactly how that happened using a condensed summary script of James Clear's mega bestseller, Atomic Habits.
A phenomenal text, honestly.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to figure out why you and I set these incredibly ambitious goals. You know, like overhauling our diet or saving a huge chunk of our paycheck, and then we just quietly abandon them 2 weeks later.
Which pretty much everyone does, right?
Exactly. It's so common. But more importantly, we're going to look at how to permanently fix this, how to hack our systems instead of relying on sheer willpower. Because the core comforting truth here is that failing isn't a you problem. It's actually a systems problem.
Yeah, it's a fundamental shift in how we view success. I mean, we live in a culture utterly obsessed with the endpoint.
Oh, 100%.
We tell ourselves, we want to lose 30 pounds or double our income or write a novel. We fixate entirely on the finish line, completely ignoring the actual mechanics of how human behavior operates on a daily basis.
Okay, let's unpack this because James Clear makes a really compelling argument that focusing on the endpoint is actually backward. He writes that you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
Yes, that is such a crucial distinction.
The analogy from the source material captures this perfectly. Think of your goal as merely a destination on a map. You can stare at that dot on the map all day long, but your daily habits, well, they are the vehicle.
Right. And if that vehicle has 4 flat tires and a blown transmission, the intensity of your desire to reach the destination is entirely irrelevant.
Exactly. You're not going anywhere.
You're really not. And I think the reason this material has resonated so widely, I mean, selling over 15 million copies, is that it strips away the need for empty inspiration.
Yeah, no more just pump yourself up advice.
Exactly. It provides a mechanical, highly actionable blueprint. It essentially stops asking you to care more and starts showing you how to operate better on a neurological level.
And it's important to note that the author didn't just study this behavioral science in like some academic bubble. He was forced into this framework by a pretty horrific life event.
Yeah, his backstory is intense.
Very. In high school, James Clear suffered a freak accident where a baseball bat struck him directly in the face. Yeah, we're talking about shattered facial bones, multiple surgeries, and even a medically induced coma. It was a trauma that nearly ended his athletic career and just completely derailed his life.
And when a person suffers a catastrophic disruption like that, the ability to chase sweeping macroscopic goals is completely stripped away.
You literally can't look at the big picture.
Right. You are forced into a position where you can only focus on the immediate microscopic actions right in front of you.
Exactly. I mean, he couldn't just jump back onto the baseball diamond and try to hit home runs. His recovery forced him to rebuild his life from the ground up using tiny, almost invisible routines.
Things that most people wouldn't even consider progress.
Yeah, like focusing purely on getting slightly better sleep, doing very simple, basic stretching, organizing his physical space.
Just controlling what he could actually control.
Exactly. These were tiny habits, but they eventually compounded, turning him into a top collegiate baseball player. He essentially acted as his own first case study.
And that leads directly to the mathematical heart of his philosophy, which is the compounding nature of small habits. It's widely known as the 1% rule.
Right.
The concept is simply getting exactly 1% better every single day.
Okay, I have to jump in here because getting just 1% better feels completely insignificant.
It does feel that way at first.
Like if your goal is to pay off $50,000 in debt or lose 30 pounds, getting 1% better today feels like telling someone who is drowning to just take one less gulp of water.
That's a great way to put it.
It just feels entirely too small to matter.
Well, what's fascinating here is how the human brain actually struggles to comprehend exponential growth. From an evolutionary standpoint, our brains are hardwired to think linearly.
Meaning, we expect a straight line of progress.
Exactly. We put in a certain amount of effort and we expect an equal immediate amount of return. But habits do not operate linearly. They compound exponentially.
Okay, break down the math for me.
Let's look at the math provided in the text. If you get 1% better daily for 1 year, you do not just become 365% better.
Right, because of compounding interest.
Yes. Because the interest of those small gains compounds on itself, you actually end up 37 times better than where you started.
Wait, 37 times.
37 times better.
So the effort is linear, but the payoff is totally exponential.
Yes. Tiny improvements are not weak. They are mathematically unstoppable when applied with consistency. Which brings us back to that story of the British cycling team.
Right, Dave Brailsford.
Exactly. That new coach applied this exact philosophy. He looked at the system, not the gold medal.
He aggressively chased those 1% margins in the most mundane, unathletic areas imaginable, finding the perfect mattress for better muscle recovery.
Dialing in their exact nutritional needs down to the gram.
And the hand-washing technique, just to reduce the statistical probability of catching a cold and missing a training day.
Which is brilliant.
But on its own, better hand-washing is definitely not winning anyone a gold medal.
No, of course not. In the aggregate, however, those 1% margins stack up. Within a few short years of implementing this system of marginal gains, they didn't just win, they completely dominated the sport across all major competitions.
So the initial takeaway for the listener here is to stop trying to overhaul your entire life by tomorrow morning. You just pick one habit today and make it slightly better than it was yesterday.
Exactly, just 1%.
But that brings up a pretty glaring psychological barrier. If the math of the 1% rule is bulletproof, and it's been proven on the Olympic stage, why is my treadmill currently functioning as a very expensive laundry rack?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Why do we still struggle so much to apply this in our own daily lives?
To understand that, we have to transition from the actions we take to the actual mindset driving them. Because we usually start the process of change by focusing on what we want to achieve.
The outcome.
Right. But the source argues we need to fundamentally pivot and focus on who we wish to become. It is a massive shift from outcome-based habits to identity-based habits.
The text gives a brilliant example of this. It's about two people who are trying to quit smoking, and both are offered a cigarette. The first person declines and says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit."
Which, on the surface, that sounds like a perfectly reasonable, positive response.
It does, but the second person declines and says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker."
A huge difference.
Right. The ultimate result in that specific moment is the same. Neither person smokes the cigarette, but the psychological framing is entirely different.
Completely different.
The first person still believes they are a smoker who is merely attempting to do something out of character. They are relying on willpower to resist their own self-image. But the second person has fundamentally changed their identity.
And that identity shift changes the internal friction of the decision, because cognitive dissonance dictates that humans want their actions to align with their beliefs.
Meaning we want to act like the person we think we are.
Exactly. If you deeply identify as a non-smoker, turning down a cigarette requires zero willpower. It is simply acting in accordance with who you already are. Any behavior that is incongruent with your core self-image is just not going to last.
I like to think of it like an ongoing election in your brain.
Yeah.
Every single time you sit down at your laptop to write, you are dropping a ballot in the box that says, "I am a writer."
I love that analogy.
Yeah. And every time you go for a walk, you cast a vote for the identity of someone who takes care of their physical health. You don't have to write a best-selling novel to cast a vote. You just have to prove your identity to yourself, one small action at a time.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it means that asking what you want, to be rich, to be thin, to be smart, is the wrong starting line.
So where do we start?
You must first ask, who is the kind of person that already has the things you want? Who is the kind of person that writes books? Someone who writes daily. Who is the kind of person that has a healthy body? Someone who doesn't miss workouts. Once you define that identity, your only job is to act like that person today.
So, assuming I've decided I am a runner,
Right?
and I want to cast my daily vote for that identity. At 6 o'clock in the morning, my brain does not care about my identity. It cares about my incredibly warm blanket.
Naturally.
So how do we override that physical friction when the motivation completely vanishes?
This is where we shift from psychology to practical environmental engineering, because motivation is just a chemical state and feelings are inherently fleeting. You simply cannot build a reliable system on something as unstable as daily motivation.
Which introduces the 4 laws of behavior change detailed in the text. This is essentially the mechanical breakdown of how to build any habit or how to invert them to break a bad one.
Let's go through them.
Law number 1, make it obvious. If you want to take your vitamins, you do not hide them in a pantry drawer, you put them directly next to the coffee maker. If you want to read more, leave the book resting on your pillow.
Right. You are manipulating your physical space to create undeniable visual cues. The human brain is essentially a pattern recognition machine.
We rely heavily on sight.
Very much so. A huge portion of our sensory nervous system is dedicated to vision. If the visual cue is obvious, the neural pathway to trigger the habit is activated automatically without conscious effort.
Makes total sense. Law number 2, make it attractive. This involves pairing the habit you need to do with something you inherently want to do.
Temptation bundling.
Exactly. So if you love listening to a specific podcast, you create a hard rule that you are only allowed to listen to it while you are physically at the gym. Suddenly, you actually look forward to the workout.
And this leverages your brain's dopamine-driven reward system. Because dopamine isn't just released when you experience pleasure, it is actually released in anticipation of the pleasure.
Oh, wow. So just thinking about the podcast gets you going.
Exactly. By coupling an existing desire, the podcast, with a new habit, you spike your anticipation and completely bypass that initial resistance.
That is powerful. Law number 3, make it easy. Reduce the friction. If you want to run in the morning, sleep in your workout clothes, or have your shoes tied and waiting by the door.
Which eliminates all those micro decisions.
Right. Think of your willpower like your smartphone battery. It naturally drains throughout the day as you make decisions. Environmental design is like leaving wireless chargers all over your house. You don't have to consciously think about plugging in. Your environment does the heavy lifting for you.
Because humans are wired to conserve energy. It is a deep evolutionary survival mechanism. We will naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of effort.
We're naturally lazy.
Basically, yeah. So by removing the physical barriers between you and the good habit, you are working with human nature instead of fighting it.
Which brings us to law number 4. Make it satisfying. Give yourself an immediate, tangible reward after completing the habit, like a physical check mark on a calendar or a small treat.
And this is necessary because we evolved in what scientists call an immediate return environment.
Meaning our ancestors weren't saving for retirement.
Exactly. They didn't worry about 5-year career plans. They worried about finding food today. But modern society requires delayed returns. We work out today to avoid a heart attack in 20 years.
Right.
To bridge that gap, you have to attach a small, immediate dose of satisfaction to the habit. That way your brain registers a successful completion and wires itself to repeat the behavior.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text couples these 4 laws with what it calls the 2-minute rule.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
The rule states you should shrink any new habit to under 2 minutes. You don't say, I'm going to run 3 miles. You say, I'm going to put on my running shoes. Now, I have to push back a bit on this.
Go ahead.
Sleeping in your workout clothes is one thing, but does just putting on your running shoes actually count as working out? It feels like we are just lowering the bar so far that the habit becomes entirely useless.
I totally get that. And putting on your shoes is absolutely not a workout, and it definitely won't burn calories. But what you have to understand is the neurological goal. Okay.
You aren't trying to master the full habit yet. You cannot optimize a behavior that does not consistently exist.
Ah, I see. So I'm not actually working out. I'm just building the neural pathway of the initiation phase. I'm basically training my brain to stop fighting the shoes.
Precisely that.
Yeah.
The heaviest psychological lift of any task is the transition from doing nothing to doing something. It is the starting sequence.
Getting off the couch.
Yes. By shrinking the task to 2 minutes, whether it's putting on the shoes, opening a blank document, or unrolling the yoga mat, you remove the friction from that initiation phase. Once you start, momentum takes over, making it significantly easier to continue than to stop.
The source material shares a really great anecdote about this. There was a woman who wanted to read more, but she didn't sit down and try to force a chapter a day. She started with a strict rule of reading just one single page a night.
Just one. Just one. And 6 months later, she was reading 30 pages a night, simply because she had completely mastered the art of starting. Once she read one page, she was already sitting in the chair. The book was open. She was engaged.
The hardest part was already over.
Exactly. She didn't rely on willpower to force herself through a dense book. She relied on a system that made opening the book inevitable.
Which is brilliant.
But let's talk about the real world for a second, though. Even with a perfectly engineered environment, even if you sleep in your gym clothes, the visual cues are everywhere and the task is shrunk down to 2 minutes. Life is chaotic.
Oh, absolutely.
You get the flu. You have a family emergency, your car breaks down, slip-ups are guaranteed to happen.
They are entirely inevitable. Aiming for perfection is a guaranteed recipe for failure.
So what does this all mean? When you inevitably have a terrible Tuesday, completely blow off the gym, and eat an entire box of donuts, how do you stop that shame spiral from making you abandon the entire system?
This raises an important question about how we contextualize failure, because the text provides a very clear, hardline rule for this exact scenario. Never miss twice.
Never miss twice. That feels much more forgiving than never miss.
It really is. Missing once is an accident. It is simply a byproduct of a chaotic life. But missing twice, that is the beginning of a new habit. It is the start of a neural pattern going in the wrong direction.
The text highlights some incredibly common mistakes people make when trying to change, like trying to change everything at once, which just spreads your focus too thin, or waiting for that elusive feeling of motivation.
Both terrible strategies.
But the biggest trap is quitting entirely after one bad day. We have one slip up and think, well, the streak is broken, might as well give up for the rest of the week.
And that mindset is why the concept of identity we discussed earlier is so crucial. Showing up the next day, even if it's just for 2 minutes, even if you literally just put on your running shoes and stand in the driveway, isn't about preserving a superficial calendar streak.
What is it about then?
It is about aggressively protecting the new identity you've been voting for. It proves to yourself that you are the type of person who does not quit when circumstances get difficult.
You guard the identity, and when you slip up, you restart immediately. You tell yourself, that was a singular event, it won't be twice. It takes the heavy emotion out of failure. It turns failure into just a data point to correct.
Exactly. You are simply resetting the system without the burden of guilt.
I love that. Let's synthesize all of this into something highly practical for the listener. The source material actually provides an elegant, exact 5-step action plan for your upcoming week. Let's lay it out so you can put this into practice today. Step 1. Choose one habit. Just one. Identify the single small habit that would have the biggest positive ripple effect in your life right now.
Keep it simple. Then step 2, shrink it to 2 minutes. Make the act of starting completely effortless. Remove all the heavy lifting from that crucial initiation phase.
Step 3, stack it on an existing behavior. This is vital. Do not leave this new habit floating ambiguously in your schedule. Anchor it right after something you already do every single day without fail, like immediately after pouring your morning coffee or the second you finish brushing your teeth.
Habit stacking is a game changer. Then, step 4, change one thing in your environment to make this new habit undeniably visible. Alter your physical space so that it triggers the behavior automatically.
And finally, step 5, track it. Put a big visible X on a physical calendar every single day you complete those 2 minutes. And follow the golden rule. Never miss twice. 5 clear steps. No expensive productivity apps required. No dramatic, exhausting life overhauls.
The overarching message of this material is incredibly freeing. You do not need an iron will. You do not need a dramatic overnight transformation to change your life.
Which is such a relief.
It is. Trusting the mechanical process of 1% daily improvements will compound over time. Month by month, year by year, those tiny margins aggregate.
They compound into a version of yourself that would genuinely shock the person you are right now. The vehicle works perfectly. You just have to get in and start the engine with those tiny 2-minute steps.
Beautifully said.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. Something that stretches just a bit beyond what we've unpacked today. We've learned that redesigning your physical environment changes your habits, and your habits inevitably shift your identity. But what happens when your newly built identity outgrows your current social environment?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is. At what point do you have to completely redesign the people and the world around you to fit the you that you have finally become? Think about that as you pick your 2-minute action for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take that first small step, cast a vote for who you want to be, and we will catch you next time.